Hello, everybody. This is Jasmine. Welcome to the Inner Revolution here on Studio B at freedomslips.com, otherwise known as Revolution Radio. How are you all today? I'm awaiting spring. It is the vernal equinox today, and I don't know about where you live, but here it is snowing still. I'm wondering if color will ever come back into my life from a geographical perspective. But anyway, here we are today, and we're going to bring some sunshine into this show and into all of our worlds. And my intention is that by the end of our 2 hours together, we'll be smiling and feeling all tingly and happy from the tops of our heads to the tips of our toes, and that we'll have some insights on how to tap into that more regularly and more specifically and more intentionally in our worlds. And I'd like to welcome my co-host, Benjamin. Hi, Ben.
Hello, Jasmine, and hello to everyone on the show. It's lovely to have you here again, and we're going to have another blast together for the next 2 hours. I
Yeah.
certainly very much look forward to it. I'm very excited because today we're going to be talking about higher levels and what are they and how to play with them, how to integrate them into your body, and pretty much anything else. Also, if you have any questions later during the show, you will definitely get a chance to give us a call. You can also definitely ask your questions on the chat. However you feel to engage with us, you're definitely welcome to do so.
Yes, and thanks. And you can engage with us on the chat room, which is so much fun. There's lots of different people on here and interacting with each other and with us as hosts of the show. And you can just ask questions and post comments and just let your wild self fly. That inner dreamer of yourself, just let it all hang out. And you can also join us and call in live as well. And we'll post a link in the chat room there. And we'll go from there. Also, now, Ben, we're talking today, or at least we're going to start the day, because what I know for sure about hosting this show is that in any radio show really is that where we begin, as in life, is merely a starting point, and wide open to playing with the path, how it unfolds, and what follows as a result of the conversations that ensue, other people's input, and our mutual energy expansion together, because, we all just put our little drop in the bucket and it sends ripples out and it expands things. So Ben used the word, we're starting our topic today as higher levels. And another word for that, synonym if you will, since I'm going to access my Jasmine thesaurus, looks like your higher self, your divinity, your spirit, your essence, your oversoul. A lot of people know the word higher self. Go ahead, Ben.
Or higher mind is another one that I quite appreciate as well, because we're just using many different words to essentially start describing the same concepts, and often they are understood as different things, but for today we will be talking about all these different ideas as pretty much the same concept. Now, soul or oversoul, there might be some distinctions, and we're probably going to highlight a few different ones as we continue on the show. Yet, generally, most of the time, as we're talking about higher levels, we're going to be talking about what a lot of people also understand as their soul, but we are going to play with it in a different way, because we're also going to be addressing some of the chakras, for example, such as, for example, the central sun. The central sun is actually one of the chakras that isn't necessarily talked about all too much, and it's certainly similar to that disc that's actually floating up above your head. And it is that chakra that essentially is perceivably outside of the body. And now what we're going to do today is bring that energy down into the bodies. We're going to allow that flow to just increase so that we can lighten ourselves up. We can lighten our load so that things don't have to be so serious, and rather we can have a little more fun and maybe bring a little more light and a little more playfulness into it all, because isn't that something that we could all use from time to time? Things just seem to get so serious so often, so why not lighten the load and bring a little more enlightenment into our lives?
Yeah, and that's how I would define enlightenment. People have asked me along my path, well, can you define enlightenment? Took me a while, but I've got it down to that sentence. It's really about lightening the load. And you know, when we talk about higher levels or our higher selves, what do we mean by that? I mean, you know, and beyond pointing outward to different teachers' perspectives or teachings, or what they say it should be like, or different schools of thought or truth, what is that for you? Because really, what I've discovered is that the only truth that really is the one that is our personal current perspective. And using sweeping statements to denote or define anything as the truth, well, that's some slippery rocks that we usually end up falling on, scraping our knees on, or bashing others up against. So what I'm really inviting and suggesting that we all do is just for a moment, you know, take a look inside or question what is my higher self? Do I believe I have a higher self? I might have heard of a soul or a spirit. Am I really divine? Any of us who've been on any kind of spiritual awakening path, or self realization, or even therapy in the group of the IST families, at some point, you know, we wonder, what the hell is this all about? Why am I here? There's got to be something more to life. And so I ask, if that's something more, what if that something more was about reuniting your mind, your body, and your spirit? And what if all of this figuring out that we do in our heads really for a moment wants to be put on the back burner? And what if just for a second we tuned into our bodies and we wondered if there were a soul or a spirit, if there were a higher self, my higher self, a part of me that I would maybe have access to, that perhaps could provide some guidance or more of a sense of, or a knowing that I'm an infinite being, or that I'm safe and that all is well. What if that could be included in our lives and in our equations just for a moment? So my question is, how do you access that? That's a good one, right? Because I can talk about all these words, and I can throw around quotes, and I could probably give, you know, I don't know, like a write or speak a dissertation at least equal to the length of the book War and Peace, which, as we know, is really long. And I've never read it because, you know, I found the sheer volume of it to be incredibly daunting right off the hop. I'm more of a give it to me straight kind of girl, and I'm going to suggest for a moment that we ask, what, even if we did have an inkling or a knowing of what a higher self might be, A, another question, how do we access it? And B, what would be the point in the first place? Okay, so I've got this soul or something I might be, or maybe I've even had moments. Many of us have had what we call spiritual moments, or, you know, we've tapped into a higher power. You know, Jim Carrey has a lovely video out where he said, you know, he had this knowing, these moments, this experience where he tapped into the universal life force. And he said that passed, and ever since then he's been spending every minute of every day trying to get back to that place. Well, I ask, what if there's no place to get back to? Mr. Carey, if you happen to be listening to me, what if there's no place to get back to? What if that is who you are? And anytime we're apart from that, that's really the issue. That's something to contemplate, isn't it? What if when we're floundering around here in a body on a planet, and we're feeling lost and unsafe and looking at the craziness that's going around, or we're caught in confusion or self-doubt or victimhood, or bullying others and trying to have them conform, or perhaps feeling confined through other people's ideal of how we should conform to their shapes and ideas? What if all we ever have to do to feel whole again, and to feel in our own shoes, to walk our path and follow our hearts, is connect to this higher self that could, in fact, this divinity, this essence of who you are, could in fact fill you with your own knowing, so that just the right words will come out of your mouth, so that your body would feel more at ease, less stressful, so that even the pressures of daily life here on this planet, as we'll call them, seem to just be more fluid. You didn't get as wrapped up in it or take it as personally. Wouldn't that be nice?
That certainly could make things a lot easier if, for example, also we would start to gain the understanding and the knowing that we don't actually need to know everything that we've learned at any one given moment, but rather we could, at that point, when we're actually tapping into our stream of consciousness, and we start to understand that we're not ever going to get any more than we need, but not any less than we need either, such that when we're actually tapped into who we truly are, that we don't need to remember anything, but any information that we do require is provided in that moment perfectly, no more, no less. And if there is something that doesn't come to mind, we actually don't need it right at that moment. But, of course, assuming that we are tapped into ourselves. Now, you spoke about conformity a little earlier, and I think we need to rewind a little further to actually talk about truth, because on our show, the Spring of Life show on BBS Radio, with this Monday, we talked about truth and the mechanics of truth, and there is certainly something to that that we have discussed, that it is almost more like we're truthing. We often describe truth as this big thing that is almost as solid and hard as the table in front of us or the chair that we're sitting on. Yet at the same time, it doesn't really seem that there is a truth that is so external of ourselves as much as there is a process that we go through that is more like truthing than necessarily the truth, because there always needs to be someone that is actually interpreting the truth for it to have either validity or not. So that when we actually start recognizing this process rather than this ultimate thing, then we can recognize that we're actually talking about us creating an inner map of the outer world. And what we're doing with talking about the truth is that we have found something in our map that has become so applicable across so many different circumstances that it almost seems to stand on its own. And when that is the case, oftentimes we feel that it must be universal. It must be true for everyone else as well. However, we also need to recognize that this has worked for ourselves in our personal world, so that we will also be discussing those types of things that have worked for us in our personal worlds, and also for our clients in our clients' worlds. Since we do work with many different people very frequently, and also across many different belief systems, a lot of these things have worked for a lot of people, but we're also not talking about one particular way that is going to work for everyone. But we do definitely want to offer you many different choices, many different viewpoints that are just useful in our lives. Take what really resonates with you. Enjoy, have a blast, play with it, be creative with it. And that what just doesn't work for you, well, try something else. Play with it. Just have some fun with it. Because once we start being more playful and rediscovering the childlike wonder when we used to I was anticipate what was in that box for Christmas, and we couldn't wait. We wanted to snoop around and maybe discover already what that is and start playing no matter whether it was Christmas yet or not. That's the same attitude that we need here too, that we need to bring back into spirituality and start playing with all these concepts in new ways that are just that much more fun, that much more joyful, and not always so serious. Because once we start getting that serious and that solid, and it can only be this or that way, that's when we start to try and convince everyone else of just our own viewpoints. And that can sometimes have benefits, but it can also be a setback when we then all of a sudden start to fight wars, and we then start fighting wars with war, and then we're surprised that we're living in a depressing world. Well, let's turn that around and bring that childlike wonder back in, and let's bring some more of that playfulness back in, because when we do that, that is where God is. That is where the divinity comes back into it, because where there is seriousness, we're cutting ourselves off from our own life force. But when we bring that childlike wonder back in, when we bring in that joy, when we bring in that excitement, that fun, that is the point where everything else melts within our bodies. That's when the resistance just leaves out, transfers back into the floor, and when that warmth just soaks straight into your body, a nice deep breath. And the relaxation can come back into the body. And that's the time when we can actually just let go and maybe play with different concepts, because we have learned all throughout our lives. We have learned to hip, skip, hop, and jump and have some fun. And we didn't even have to learn how to have fun as kids, but sometimes it's also nice to relearn things as adults. So let's give ourselves some space. Let's give not only ourselves in our physical bodies some space, but let's give our spiritual bodies some space. Let's have some fun, and let's give other people some space, because some space certainly allows us to take an even deeper breath now. And just allow it to roll right through. And when you then connect to your heart and you let that warmth just soak right back into your body, and you let that tension go and just let yourself, your higher self, come back into the body and allow it to regather within yourself, that's the time when we start to connect with ourselves again. That's the time when we get to have fun again.
Well, that was very relaxing, Ben. You know, Benjamin, you used the word God. And I know for a lot of us, for me for a very long time, that was a tough word to swallow, because I had some pretty interesting beliefs and experiences around that three-letter word that didn't serve me so well. I was brought up in a religious ideology that had me believe that there was some big dude in the sky with a beard and a lightning bolt and a gavel of judgment that could really, really mess with my life and would punish me. And so as a result, that became a dirty word to me for a very long time. Now, having done lots of work around that, I get that those were just ideas and beliefs that I bought into with innocence as a kid. And so what I do want to offer, though, is that if you do have a stickiness around that word, I honor that. Throw it away. Words are just signposts leading to a direction. You can use Bob. I worked once with a quantum physicist who called what he said was the all-knowing intelligence of light and information, or something like that. He called it the quantum flower of life. You can call it Bob's your uncle. There's as many names for this, or, all that is, or something, because some of us, we just don't believe. And we're not about aiming in any religious dogmatic aspect. What is important is that you feel comfortable. And connecting to your higher essence isn't about finding God, unless you want it to be and that works for you. It's not about entering into some ritualistic formatting in your world. But there is a place that we all know and we all experience and we crave. When we say, I know there's something more to life, there's got to be something more, there's meaning, what is the meaning? That is the meaning. I can say that is for me. I offer to you, what if that is the meaning, to really integrate and connect with your spiritual self. And I'm also not talking about spiritual, metaphysical, tribal, ritualistic ideologies either, because there's a way in which, we play the spiritual Olympics and people trade off dogmatic, religious-based aspects for spiritual, metaphysical ones. But we just platform ourselves perhaps on a more righteous and more welcoming platform. But it's a platform nonetheless. So really, my perspective and what I offer to you and the invitation here is to just get naked with yourself, and you can take that literally or figuratively, whatever, again, works for you, my good friends. But to really get real with yourself and check into your own hearts. And you can take a deep breath. There's a lot of people use meditation to connect to their essence, to their higher selves. And I've had people tell me they meditate for hours or that their goal is to meditate for 3 or 4 hours. Well, I'll let you know I can do that. Yeah, I can put myself in a couch or in a comfortable position sitting on a cushion on a floor, and I can check out and check in to all that is in my body for hours and hours. And let me tell you a secret. It's boring.
It certainly can be.
Life is meant to be lived, man. Now, meditation is a great tool. I still use it. Is it the be-all and end-all? Is it, the way to be, living in a cave, sitting on an enlightened cushion in the middle of your living room? Well, I mean, if that really floats your boat, and you're really excited about that, then yes, it is for you. What I have found is that being in a body on a planet really wants to, allow us to adventure, to explore, to have interactions with the life forms that are here, with the plants, the earth, the animals, the people, the music, the creativity that we have, the ability to touch and feel and smell. Life is exciting. And meditation can allow us to connect into our bodies, which is also something that most of us are completely unaware of, is that we actually have a body. And then we freak out when it starts acting up by getting sick or in a state of dis-ease. I'm not one to say disease. It's a state of dis-ease. And what I've come to know through my own experience working with others and also through a lot of research is that the body is the last thing that's going to be the signal to show you in your world that something you've been thinking or some part of you you've been cutting off, quite possibly your spirit, that essence of you that makes your breath move and has you feel warm and fall in love and look at a baby, and I don't care how tough you are, we all go, oh, goopy, 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 right? There was a great little Facebook picture where there was, the quote said, no, I don't care, no matter how tough you are, when a kid hands you a telephone, a play phone, you're going to say hello, and it's this big, tough-looking biker dude in leathers and stuff, and he's pierced, and he looks like many of my good friends from the past, actually, from many moons ago. And he, picks up the phone and goes, hello. It's that part of us that's our spirit, that has us find joy, that has in the little things, that has us look at a flower and maybe see it for the first time, maybe really smile for the first time. So I have said to people who have meditated, I can teach you to meditate in about 5 minutes. And I've got it down to really maybe about like 90 seconds max now. And how long you want to do that and how much you want to practice is up to you. But going to school for meditation, I mean, again, unless it really drives your bus and floats your boat and makes you all excited and get all tingly and goosebumpy, there's no need to. It's really simple. Find a spot. Here it is. Are you ready? I'm going to give it to you now. Okay, ready? Pen, paper if you require, but I know that you'll remember it now because there's a deeper part of you listening. Here's how to meditate. First of all, find yourself in a comfortable position. Whether that is sitting, I prefer sitting because there are some personality types that once they lay down, they fall asleep. Plus, most of us have been programmed that when we lay down, we're to sleep. We also have a program running that when we close our eyes, we're to sleep. But you now know that that's not necessarily true, that when your eyes close, you're actually going to become into a state of heightened awareness. And you're going to have something to focus on. So you find yourself somewhere comfortable to sit. Make sure you're warm, and if your feet are on the floor, you've got a blanket under them. Make yourself comfy, cozy. Then you're going to take a deep breath in. And you're going to exhale, and you're going to take another deep breath in with an auditory exhale. And you're going to let your breathing become normal in a natural rhythm for your body, and your eyes are closed. And you continue to breathe, and you allow your awareness to come in to your heart. Call it your heart chakra, your chest, whatever works for you again. Let's not get hung up on verbiage. And you're just going to breathe, and it really helps to take one of your hands, whatever feels most comfortable for you, and place it on your heart or in the center of your chest, and breathe while you feel your feet on the floor. And just let your breath be natural. and draw your awareness into your heart. And imagine that there's a golden sun above your head and another one at the very center of the universe. And you're just going to visualize as you breathe into your heart, with your hand on your chest and your feet on the floor. And notice the golden particles and diamond light particles of your unique essence coming down through the top of your head and filling your body, coming into your heart and moving through your body, feeling your body and breathing. And just let that happen. There's no need to consider anything after this, and you just sit there and breathe. And every once in a while, a deep breath in and out will just happen for you. And that's a sign that your body is beginning to relax. You may feel tingling. You may feel warmth. You may have images move through you. And I know that some of us have heard that if thoughts come, we're to push them away. Well, okay, but that's resistance. I invite you to let the thoughts come, watch them, and keep breathing. Redirect yourself back to your hand on your heart and breathe. Sometimes emotion comes up. That's okay. Remember, all those particles that are coming in through the top of your head and through your body now are speeding your body up, speeding up the regeneration process, the rejuvenation process, the renewal process. So many of us spend so much time in our minds with our jobs, our intelligence, trying to figure things out. And that's okay. And just for now, be still and let yourself open into your body with your hand on your chest, breathing and feeling the floor beneath you and where you're sitting. And you just let that continue to be that way. And let your experience be what it is. Let it be what it is. And let the breath deepen. And you'll notice there's a stillness. And you'll notice that as you're still and tuned completely into your body and its sensations and the speed at which it's beginning to move now while it's still, that there's also an expansion that takes place because your awareness can fill the room. Even though you're completely, fully present with your eyes closed, with your breath and your hands on your chest, and your breath slow, you fill the room. And then you fill the area. And then your awareness can fill the country. And you let whatever comes come and move through, and you stay present. And you can fill the entire globe. And you can fill the universe and the multiverse while being completely present with you. And it's easy, and it happens of its own accord in a natural, fluid fashion. And you may notice that oftentimes when you're in this space, when you just take a break to connect to you, mind, body, spirit, breath, through the portal of your heart, that information comes, guidance comes, answers to those challenges, new ways of considering things. Ah, that feels good. I never thought of that. Wow, the heart, so much love can pour through. This is the space where what people call spontaneous healing can take place just by letting yourself connect. And it feels so good. I know people who become junkies for this. But you know what? You get so good at it when you practice for 5, 10, or 15 minutes now and again, maybe before you go to sleep or when you wake up or in the middle of the day or at your desk at work right now, that even when you're driving a car, you'll be able to feel this way and be completely cognizant and present to driving. You'll become more aware that this is more comfortable than anything else. And when this becomes your comfort zone, anything else is no longer acceptable to you because you're in alignment with yourself. And that's when resolution comes. That's when the resourceful state is present. So that any of those challenges with the animals or the environment or the political groups or your children or your mother-in-law comes up, you'll be able to take a breath, put your hand on your heart, And remember now this resourceful state that you have for you to access. Isn't that lovely? Doesn't that feel good? It does for me. I feel very connected now. And I wasn't even sitting down. I've been standing up talking to you, putting myself in that place. Welcome home. Imagine balancing your bank book from this place. Imagine going to work or to that PTA meeting or to the political rally from this place. Looking at those people in your life from this place. Seeing the overview. This is the place where we get to step back into ourselves, into the stream of consciousness that is uniquely you, to be able to view forward, to experience the resourcefulness, the peacefulness, and that regenerative excitement, because there's excitement in this. There's awareness, and an awareness and a clarity of all that is far sharper than the mind alone can give you. But let's include the mind. It's a good friend. Because if we don't include the mind, then the trip isn't going to be navigated. We need all components to live a balanced, holistic, whole-bodied life. Mind, body, and spirit.
And when we start to integrate all these different components in that way, when we start to tap into ourselves more and more often, we'll actually start to breathe at a more even pace. And what's so fabulous is that when you do a little bit of biofeedback is that modality where you attach different sensors or different sensors onto the body in order to measure heart rate, breathing, and galvanic skin response, which essentially just tells you how stressed out you are. You'll see that essentially your breathing will start to even out. And when it does that, it actually does something incredibly unique. Because when we go through our lives at a regular pace and we are in our daily, somewhat stressed lives, there's always a little bit of, or for most of us at least, there's a little bit of stress there. It actually means that we're breathing rather shallow. When we do that, our heart rate is actually pretty much all over the place. So I thought for quite a long time, until I learned how to actually do these tests, that having a heart rate that is pretty even is what's normal. But this is not necessarily true. When you are breathing at your optimal frequency, that's for most people, on average, about 5 seconds in, so that's in, 2, 3, 4, 5, out, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you breathe at that rhythm, then you actually start to align your entire body systems. That means then when you inhale, your heart rate subtly but surely speeds up little by little by little by little. And as you start to exhale, your heart rate slows down little by little by little by little. And when you get into that rhythm, into that beautiful groove, that is the point where then your breathing and your heart rate start to synchronize and create this beautiful sine curve of waves up and down and up and down. And at that point, your body has a chance to really and truly rest. It actually then gets into a state where your cells start to regenerate. They start to get quicker and quicker at healing the body. That is the point when you're hitting or firing up that part of your nervous system that allows you to de-stress, that allows you to get the neuroexciters that are good for you. That is the point where you actually start to create more of the brain juices that are good for you. And that is also the point when You can start to have more fun in your life because you're just not that stressed out anymore. You can go around and have a blast, and from that place, you actually start to tap into your own peace, into your own clarity. And you can do this anywhere you want, whether you're standing at the grocery store in line waiting to cash out, or whether you're on the highway. Although when you're operating machinery, you also want to stay awake and aware. But it allows you to breathe even in that meeting that might usually be a little bit more stressful. But when you start tapping into your own heart, when you start tapping into your own energies, that's the point when you can recharge yourself. That's the point when your battery's not running on low. That's the point when you actually start building new neural networks, when you start to learn that much easier, when you don't have to cram so hard, but memorizing things isn't so much of a tedious task, but rather it'll just pop right back into your mind when you need it, because it's not so much of a struggle. Just relax, let go of pretty much everything else, and focus your clarity just as is required at that point.
And it would be a nice way to focus your clarity to come on over to freedomslips.com and head on over to the donate, to the support us page, because everybody who works here does so on a volunteer basis. All the running of the technology and all the wonderful hosts both on Studio B and Studio A, all the graphics, everything you see is all done just by people sharing from the goodness of their hearts because they want to. They want to put it out there on this incredible platform that we have available to us to host and talk and share, and also for you to listen and call in on and interact with all the great hosts. And also in the chat room, there's always so much interesting dialogue taking place there. So come on over to freedomslips.com and hit the Support Us page button, and there's tons of really great opportunities there to donate to help keep us running and up and going with our technology and website fees. I know that, God, having a website is so expensive. And there's, all sorts of ways to do that. You can, for $5, get a personal chat room icon, or you can do a one-time donation, or there's some really cool like seed packs and garden packs there that have specific monetary denominations about them. Whatever works for you. You can do a monthly donation. Again, whatever works for you. And we are appreciative of your support through listening to us, all of us here in Studio A and B at freedomslips.com, interacting with us and sharing with us and supporting us in any way that you can. And if that for you is, if you're able financially to offer your credit card, then we appreciate that too. So I just wanted to put in that little service announcement.
Lovely. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And I get that a lot of us are caught up in our minds. And why not? Because the mind is great. I mean, for me, I'm a woman. I would think that the mind is the closest thing that I could have to a penis. I think it's lovely. And I'm pretty sure it's one of the words I'm allowed to say on air. So, I hope so. It's certainly a, biological, physiological part. It's just skin, right? But we play with ourselves and our minds. And we play with others in our minds. And humans, I recently heard someone say something I thought was incredibly brilliant. They said that humans are the only species that make up things in their head and then they believe it. Wow. You don't see your dog doing that, right? Sitting there contemplating, I'll bet that little poodle next door thinks I'm a real bad guy, I bet that poodle doesn't want to date me. Oh my God, what does this mean about me? I don't think you don't need doggy psychiatry for that. The dog goes over and tries to hump the poodle, is either successful or not. It's pretty simple.
Well, some of us are having arguments in our minds, not just once, but over and over and over. And guess what? They never actually happened. Those arguments never occurred in real life. Sometimes we try to prepare us for catastrophes that also never happen. And we create so many different scenarios that just never come true. Now, the thing is, if we have the ability to really consider pretty much anything that we want, why are we spending it having arguments in our minds when really we could be having whatever it is you like to do in your life? What does bring you the greatest joy? Because you can start to re-experience that instead. Wouldn't that be a whole lot more fun? Wouldn't that actually potentially lead you to actually doing more of what you do enjoy in your life? Well, but we have to do this and we have to do that. You can't just have fun. Well, we make ourselves feel bad for no reason. Why don't we make ourselves feel good or even great for no reason? It's actually lovely to just play and have a blast and enjoy yourself as you like, because we do have the imagination. We do have the power to create pretty much anything that you can come up with. Why
And
not make it worthwhile?
you know what? We would love if you would join us in the chat room and ask any questions or join in the conversation, and give us a call at Studio B live at 310-421-4053. You know, anything you'd like to talk about. You want to talk about meditation, you want to talk about thoughts, you want to talk about getting your garage cleaned and how you can feel less hesitancy in your life, or you can feel more attractive or more confident, or, you know, are you upset about the state of the world? Are you concerned about aliens? You know, what's on your mind? Because, you know, from an inner revolution perspective, which is really the way we go about our lives, it's like we change the inside first. And, you know, there's something each one of us wants. You know, whether if it's to find that missing plane or not, or it's to come up with solutions for the government so kids have, you know, food to eat, and people aren't forced to receive, you know, needles that they don't want, or maybe you have a health issue you'd like to get to the core of. Because there's a whole school of thought and science that says, you know, all state of physical dis-ease is a direct result of what's going on with our thoughts and our belief systems, and whether we're including all of us or not. And this has been, you know, proven. And Ben and I just came back from a neurohypnotic repatterning seminar that was amazing. Our last show, we were a little goobified. That was my new word. That went over well, but I'm feeling much better now. But, you know, really talked about directly being able to shift your brain juice, your neurology, without drugs, man. Every drug there is already exists in the body. And it's really just how to recreate a state, how to shift the neurology, flatten out the neurology so that you can create a new path, a new way of being, more solution-oriented. And by solution, I mean that both ways. Solution as in finding solutions to challenges, being resourceful, and solution-oriented from the chemical solution that you're creating in your brain, in your neurology, that courses through your physiology as a direct result of the way you think, the pictures you make in your head, and the sounds you make. Let's think about that. We are the only creatures that make up pictures in our mind, hear voices, and then we believe it to be true. And then we add to it. And we believe it to be true.
And we even whether we believe it to be true or not, whether we understand that it's just thoughts or not, our brains are reacting the same to it, regardless of whether we believe that it's true or not. If we're producing it in our minds, it's like we're actually stepping into Star Trek's holodeck, and we're creating at least a mini version of that experience for ourselves. So not bad enough that someone yelled at us once, we might have it run over and over and over. That sometimes can also be a little bit of a setback on some of the therapies that have existed on this planet thus far. It's not always the best idea to just go deeper and deeper into that which has troubled us and in the past, and keep reliving it over and over, and keep dissecting it deeper and deeper, because hell, it's most likely just going to create more of what it created originally. So if we actually look to create something else, we need to do something else. We need to create a different state. We need to create a different way of thinking. If we're looking to act differently next time, it's not about figuring out just what went wrong, but it is more about figuring out what can we do right next time. And certainly have we now learned more and more to direct our own inner compasses to that which is fun, to that which feels good. Because when you start aiming not only your conscious mind, but your unconscious, just the same, into the direction of what feels good, not only are you going to be more resourceful, but you're actually going to aim into the direction of more of that. So if you want to dissect more of the same of what hasn't worked in order to find out what hasn't worked, so that you may find more of what hasn't worked, and rather instead now start to focus your attention into, what might I want instead? And not just positive thinking, but how can I start to integrate that into my life? How can I not only start to use my conscious processes, but really the unconscious ones as well? Because that's more of the crux of the business. So many of us try to adjust our unconscious processes through conscious processes. And that gets really difficult.
Well, that's akin to using the tool that perhaps created the issue in the first place to fix it. And that doesn't really go very well. If I put my fist through a wall and create a hole, which I've done in the past, using my fist to fix it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. And, I'm all about what works. I'm really all about, guiding people to their center, to incorporate all of themselves, to rediscover, reunite, and I'm going to use this, normally I call this a dirty word, but I'm going to use it, their trust. To trust in themselves, to start to build a bank account of experience where you can trust your own guidance. And I'm not talking about the mind guidance that has you dating the same guy in the same relationship with a different name every couple of years and wondering why you're sitting around your table with your girlfriends after 2.5 years over and over again, crying, drinking wine, and wondering what happened as you smoke a pack of cigarettes. Because I've been there and I get that too. I'm talking about actually coming into a state of creating your world, following your heart. You want the relationship, or you want the relationship you have to be better, and maybe you think you might have to leave it, and maybe you do. But maybe what you really have to leave is your thought processes behind and start changing that and stop recreating things. To stop building a story based on a foundation of pain and suffering and old news. Like I know, and we get sold drama. I mean, God, our whole television and media industry is based on drama. Everything is dramatic, and we're all struggling in our own way. Some of us more so than others, trying to find our way through it, trying to figure out what happened, trying to gain clarity, but operative word being we're trying. And we're trying from an out there perspective, the clarity you seek and the resourcefulness you seek, even the ability to ask crisp, clear questions, because many of us are not asking the right questions. We're not asking, we're asking instead. I recently spoke to a friend, and this is just, a conversation that I've had so many times in my life with myself and with others and friends and clients. I mean, I'm sure you have too, where we sit there and even in our own heads, we say, oh, why am I so angry? Why am I so depressed? I don't know why I'm so sick. Why does this keep happening to me? Well, I got to tell you, you're going to keep looking. The minute you ask that question, your search engine of a brain is going to just reroute you to all the reasons why you've been angry. Oh, your father abused you. Your mother left when you were 6. You lost your job. The mortgages are too high. The job industry is going down. The bumblebees are croaking, and life is just pretty much, filled with radiation. I might as well leave now. Well, all righty then. Or you can start asking questions of like, more in the direction of what I want rather than what I currently have. I wonder how I could live a happier life. I wonder how I could feel more resourceful. I wonder if there's someone or something out there that, could teach me a skill or a tool, or I could find some golden nugget that would actually help me move forward in my life. I wonder if there's a way that I can heal naturally. I wonder if there's something that I could feel really good about and then move forward on that would help the bees. I wonder if there's some way I can go about this. I wonder if I could, feel better about myself. Maybe then I would drop those 10 pounds. I wonder what it would feel like to actually look in the mirror and like what I see when my clothes are off. I wonder what that would be like to be able to open my heart. Instead of, oh, I can't open my heart because every time I have in the past, blah, 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 and the story starts coming up. Your dog isn't telling you that story. I've rescued enough shelter animals and abused creatures to know that although it takes them a while, they warm up and open their hearts pretty readily. And that's our nature. That is human nature. This that we see with the chaos and the destruction is not human nature, my friend. Human nature is the person who runs into the burning car of the building to save a puppy or a cat or a baby or a person that they've never met before. That moment of full connection is human nature. The storytelling is learned behavior. And if you can learn it, you can relearn something else.
And if you don't learn to tell yourself the right stories, other people will tell them for you. And all of a sudden, when that happens, we understand that somehow our lives have gotten out of control. Somehow this planet seems a little out of control. Well, why might that be? Who is driving this bus? Who is driving your own car of your own life? So when you actually start to take charge again, when you start to become more conscious of what it is that you are thinking, what it is that you are telling yourself, what it is that you are doing consciously and unconsciously, when you start to gain more mastery in your life over your inner world, then there are no limits to what you can do. So with that, I want to ask you, what is it in your life that you want more of? What is it in your life that you would like to do differently? How would you like to act differently? And if you would like to actually explore that with us here live on the show, you can definitely call in. The Skype contact for that is Freedom Screen 2. And I'm going to post that on the chat in a moment. Again, it's Freedom Screen 2. Or you can call Studio B at 310-421-4053. Once again, that's 310-421-4053. So when you then start to grab a hold, and we can gladly assist with that because that's what we do for a living, we are definitely working in so many different ways that we can assist you with some spiritual guidance, some mind coaching, or just some general physical awareness. And Jasmine, yes, you wanted to.
I wanted to say this. I watched I went out for lunch today with my sweetheart and watched a couple of babies. They were maybe like 1 to 2 years old. And I watched them be so present with themselves. And this one baby started to scream, and the mommy picked it up, and he tried to take it out of the restaurant. And I loved it. And my comment was, that kid's got great vocal cords. There are times I wish I could just scream. She said, I was really tired. I said, I know. I've been in that place of being exhausted, haven't we all, and not been able to sleep. Often we reach for a sleeping pill of some sort, whatever that might be, to each their own. But what if I get that. We lose sight with that expression. We lose sight of our dreams and our desires. Remember when you were a little kid and you thought you could do anything? You believed you could, till some adult came and told you, no, you can't. You don't have the marks. You're not smart enough. You can't make it. You're not good enough. You don't want to be an artist. Artists don't make money. Go and do this instead. You'll never amount to anything. And all of these voices, and we bought in. I say, take that scroll, that dossier of all it can'ts, toss it out, and allow yourself to begin to dream. I've talked to adults who don't even know what they want. They don't dream anymore. And some people hear me talk like this and they go, they roll their eyes. They tell me I'm crazy. Well, I got to tell you, I'm crazy? Okay. I feel good. I feel good. I live a happy life. Overall, I'm pretty happy. And I mean, you know what? It's that dreamer inside of us. What do you desire in your world? What do you want more of, and what do you want less of? And by identifying the less, let that be your beginning lily pad, and then say, I want less anger, so it must mean I want to feel happier. And keep staying on that one and let that lily pad take you to, I'd like to feel more relaxed, and maybe being happier might mean that new house or a new cottage. And even though I might not know where the money is right now, I can dream. Dare to dream. Dare to desire. Dare to tap into your own excitement. Let that kid out of the closet, out of the shackles, out of the straitjacket. It's time for us to begin to live. If not now, when? And yeah, Cheryl, the planet's in such a state. How can I be talking about this stuff? How can I not? What if the only way to turn this planet and this experience around and bring it into harmony, symbiotic relationship, is for us to learn how to do that first within? Otherwise, what we have on the outside, we wouldn't be able to know a diamond if we held one in our hands. Look at what's happened to this planet. And I'm not saying that's all of us, but the collective consciousness wants to shift, and it starts within the self that is you. And you pass that energy on, or we beat the war drum. We beat the wrong drum. What about starting to beat the right drum? The drum of your right to be happy, your right to be creative, your right to dream, and beyond that, receive that in the most magical, delicious ways possible. And that includes all facets of your life, your personal, your professional, and global. All of it is here for you. But you got to be willing to incorporate all of yourself, because otherwise it's up to the Department of They. And I mean, well, that's been so much fun, hasn't it? I know very quickly we're going to... No.
Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message.
Enjoy your extra big ass fries.
You didn't give me no fries. I got an empty box.
Would you like another extra big ass fries?
I said I didn't get any.
Thank you. Your account has been charged. Your balance is 0. Please
What?
come back when you can afford to make a
no,
purchase.
no.
I'm sorry you're having
Come
trouble.
on. My kids
sorry
are
you're having
starving.
Thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio. Here at Revolution Radio, we believe in freedom of ideas, freedom of speech, but above all, we believe in freedom of existence through self-reliance. This station is 100% listener supported, and as a fundraising promotion, I have a kick-ass free gift for a $100 donation. 35,000 seeds. 25 years in the freezer. Long-term storable, 54 different varieties. So if food prices go crazy, the shit hits the fan, or if you just want to save tons of money every year by creating your own food like I do, grab our seed pack special. Just look for the banner on the homepage at freedomslips.com. Don't be a statistic. Don't be part of the problem. Be part of the solution. We need, as humans, to start taking care of ourselves and not depending on the megacorps to provide unhealthy, nasty food. Included in this package is also a DVD with 900 survival and off-grid living documents and the offline home canning how to do everything website all on the DVD. So when you're growing all that food, you know how to can it, store it, preserve it, etc. with all these documents. So thank you for tuning in to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I hope that you will pick up this package and start learning to be free. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, where information never sleeps and freedom is one seed that needs to be planted.
eternity.
Hello, I'm Benjamin.
And I'm Jasmine.
We are inner tour guides with black belts in the art of self-awareness and how to live a passionate life.
We love talking with you about what you have and what you want.
More importantly, we want to explore with you how to bridge the gap between that wanting and bring it right back to the having.
So what are your hopes, dreams, and desires?
Is it money, love, success, health, wealth, or something even more specific?
Let us guide you through the exciting adventure of turning what you want into what you have.
Come join in the conversation on our show, The Inner Revolution.
We look forward to exploring with you.
Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drink themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. You know, the shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and then bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Not me. Get it done.
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com.
Who are we? Where do we come from? Are there other humans in our Milky Way galaxy? What is our real history? What happens after we die? Or what created our universe? What is the purpose of our life? What evolutionary steps do human societies go through? Who built the ancient monolithic site found all over the Earth? How did the extraterrestrials travel from star to star system with almost no time passing? Ohio Exopolitics is on at 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Revolution Radio. Join Mark Snyder as he interviews a myriad of excellent guests each Saturday night on Revolution Radio.
At freedomslips.com.
Hi, this is the voice known as Tammy Pepperman. Have you ever thought about how this seems like a farm? The food comes with daily recommended allowance, just like any other farm animal. If you get out of line, you get prodded, slapped, or killed if you're too much liability. And if you are not earning your keep, you can find yourself in prison for non-payment of taxes or child support. If you're tired of being farm product, join us every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Studio B and Saturday, 6 to 8 p.m. on Studio B, right here on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here, Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays, midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
Revolution Radio. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hi there. Welcome back to the Inner Revolution with Jasmine and Benjamin here on freedomslips.com. Studio B, 100% listener-supported radio. So please allow yourself to come on over to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com and come on over to the Support Us page and support us in any way you can, because we're all here doing it for love, and we enjoy sharing with you and your presence, and we would love if there's some way in which you could give us a little boost financially, whether that's a nickel or a gajillion nickels. We're open to it all. Thanks so much. And so, hey, Ben, welcome back. Do you have another coffee?
Another coffee? Did you finish yours already?
No. Ben's been tripping on caffeine today. I've never seen anything like it. It's pretty unusual for him. I mean, I'm a bit of a coffee girl myself. I have quite a love affair with the black bean goddess, and have had for a long time. And I'm like straight up full on caffeine too. None of this decaffeinated stuff for me. But Benjamin doesn't do a lot of caffeine. But today he's just been, wow, it's been quite incredible to watch. And I'm amazed that he can still have the pentameter of his voice isn't all over, like he's not running like brrr.
Hello, everybody. Really nice to be on the show with you tonight. Let's have a blast.
Tonight?
Really enjoy it. Yes,
he's blasted
it's nice
into
for
the
me
future.
It's night for me already, because really I've sped up time, and now since I sped it up, it was so much fun to slow it back down again. So it's certainly a lot of fun to drink a lot of coffee, but it's also not necessarily required all the time, because we did this wonderful thing on our last seminar called Drug of Choice, and it is this process by which you can essentially regain any type of feeling or any type of experience you had in the past. Just think about that for a moment. You can access any type of state, no matter which drug you did, no matter what you might have been doing in bed or by yourself, or anything that feels really good. And I know there is something that makes you feel really good, that thing you might not want to tell your mother about, for example. So there is a way of accessing that, and not just accessing it, but amplifying it. And yeehaw, it is a lot of fun. But it can also become really, really practical, because when we feel we hesitate or we get stuck in our worlds, to then find those moments where we just went for it, or where we felt like things were taking too long, and then we just decided, oh, I got to do this now. So we got that want and the desire to just do it anyway, no matter what. That is, for example, some of the application that we can play with. And when we start to restructure not only those things that seem to come up in our conscious minds, but also those things that seem to come up whether we want them to or not, then we're opening up doors to possibilities that just weren't there before.
And, speaking of, I love that phrase, want and desire. For me, it brings up a little bit of a sensual edge. But, sometimes as adults, and there are ways in which, as adults, we don't allow ourselves to dream. I was speaking of this before the break, and I think it's worth further investigation, because I work with a lot of people. I've had many discussions. I mean, whether they're in front of me as clients or not, or they're in a workshop or not. I mean, I just like to talk to people, and I speak to them really openly. Anywhere. I don't care if it's over a burger, or it's a coffee through the window, or I'm waiting in line at the grocery store. I just open with people, and I have these really beautiful, intimate conversations with people. We just open right up and we share from our hearts. And oftentimes it's, what do you want in life? And they say, I want to be happy. That sounds good to me. Then I say, well, what does that look like? What does that sound like? What does it feel like? What does that mean? And I'd say about 82.76% of the time I hear, I don't know, I just want to be happy. That's a pretty solid default setting. And I find that a lot of adults, as adults, we have that until we don't. And perhaps the time has come now for us to start investigating if we have become so distracted with outside circumstances in order to avoid our inner worlds, because we think that our happiness lies out there. How many people are truly happy? I mean, really happy. Are you? Check in with yourself. There might be some things or areas of your life that you're more happy about than others, but do you feel really good when you look in the mirror naked? That's always my test for women. Do you feel good about your state of health? Do you feel joyous about your relationship when you're coming home from work at the office or the mines or, I don't know, the nuclear power plant, wherever it is that, you get your paycheck from? Do you feel good about your job and what you're doing? Do you feel an integrity when you walk in and you're driving home? Are you thinking, oh, I can't wait to see my partner, my wife, my husband, my sweetheart, whatever, my kids, my dog? I'm so excited to get home. Or are you going, oh, I got to go home and now I'm going to have to do this and then they're going to be there and they're probably going to ask me to do the laundry or cut the lawn? Do you wish sometimes you were just driving past your own house? I mean, really. Wouldn't you love to feel pumped about going home? Wouldn't you love to get up Monday morning and go, excellent, another day at work, a work week? Yeah, that's exciting. I wonder who I'll talk to today. I wonder if I can be a little saucy with that person who just seems to be a little bit, I don't know, persnickety oftentimes. Wouldn't that feel good? If you could, start weeding your garden from I'm so excited about this. I mean, when would the time now be to start wondering where you can feel better in your world? And what if you put yourself on a negativity diet? Now, I know there's a lot of stuff going on in the outside world currently, all over the globe, all over the globe. But the truth is, as far as I'm concerned, and that's a dirty word in my book, the truth, but my current truth is, and I offer this to you, is that there's more good than not going on. There really is. It's just not covered. And yeah, there's some things that are pretty interesting going on out there, but we don't really know what that's about. We can only ever make those pictures in our head and talk to each other about it and get all riled up about it and maybe have our blood boil in our veins because we get so angry about it or enraged about it and frustrated and confused about it or depressed about it or feeling powerless about it. The inner revolution, if you want to affect the outside, is about changing how you think about things. And that, changing your brain neurology, changes your physiology and coming into your body, starting to feel your body and getting out of its way. It's a natural regenerating machine. Okay? And we're a meaning-making machine. The question is, what meaning am I making? What meanings am I giving to things? How do I feel about the experiences I'm having? Do I really believe I can heal my body? Do I really believe that I'm the creator of my world? Do I believe I'm a victim? Am I running on this treadmill of trying to change the outside, but underneath I believe that no matter how much I do or how much I give or how much blood I donate, I'm not going to make a difference? And doesn't that just create a hairball in your solar plexus? How's that working for our digestive tracts? I mean, we can talk about what's going on with the food and this and that, but I mean, Candace Pert, through her work in The Molecule of Emotion, talked about key cell receptors. And the reality is if your physiology and your mind juices aren't in alignment, your cells couldn't uptake that organic nutrition if you tried. You can keep shoving that in, but it's not gonna help. Now, we have a caller. Yay, come on in.
Just in time, just joined us on the call or on the show.
How you doing, handsome? How are you?
Benjamin, Jasmine, how are you doing?
Fabulous. How are you?
Oh, doing great, doing great. I've got to, I've got you on my calendar now. I can't do anything on Thursdays between noon and 2 p.m. my time here on the West Coast because I got to hear Jasmine and Benjamin and see what they have to offer this week.
Oh, I love that you're here with us and such a firm supporter. It really feels good, because talking on this headset into the world is I wonder, is anyone listening? And then I think to myself, who cares? I think like maybe the whole universe is listening, and maybe somehow people will be guided to the station to come and support us and listen to us. I don't know. I'm glad you're here.
Well, and I think, that's a good point that I hear the both of you bring up week after week, is that we, I know a lot of people out there ask themselves, just like Jasmine was saying about coming home, geez, I got to go home and I'm probably going to have to do, we put so much focus on the outside and forget most of the time to focus on the inside, focus on ourselves, focus on making ourselves feel better, focus on, what we can do to improve our life, even if it's just for the following 5 minutes that are coming.
Yep.
Right on, because that's 5 minutes more. Or 5 minutes, people say life's too short and to feel upset or to be angry, whatever they say, get over it, life's too short. And I like to spin that around and say life's too long also to feel that way. I mean, why spend an extra... Right on, right? It just starts turning into this very long, drawn-out pain in the rear end. Well, that's a life well lived, huh?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can go back to something as simple as waking up in the morning. Do you wake up and feel refreshed and, just happy to see that, oh, it's bright outside, the sun must be shining, or do you wake up and say, oh, geez, another day, I guess I'll go fix some coffee and God, I got all this stuff. There's no way to start the day.
Yes, and we do feel bad essentially for no reason so often. We haven't even begun to do the thing that we don't really want to do, and we already start feeling bad about it now. So if we do that, why don't we start spinning it around and actually start feeling good for no reason? Because at that point, then all of a sudden, if there is something that comes along that we're not all that thrilled about, we've already built so much excitement in our inner worlds that isn't all that bad anymore. It's like, it's just one other, okay, today I'll do the accounting and I'll be that excited when it's done. So then I can have a blast with everything, no matter what comes my way. And you know what? Sometimes stuff still happens. You get a little shocked about this or that, but you also know how to find your balance again. You do know how to get excited or to actually overcome it quicker because you've already trained yourself to find the solutions, to find that which will bring you back into the excitement, even if it's just getting beyond this damn situation that I found myself in because, it's that time of year yet again. A lot of people only get out of bed in the morning. Their motivating strategy to get out of bed in the morning is a bladder squeeze. I have to go to the washroom. And it's not always the best way of motivating yourself. Wouldn't the question, I wonder how much fun I can have today. Isn't that a much nicer way of waking up and having a blast with all the fun you can have for that day? Because at that point, you actually do get to be more creative.
How do you get up just in time?
I'm just happy that I can open my eyes and I can see everything that's around me. I have the vision to see it, and I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm always accused sometimes when I've called into other shows that I guess the way I think about things, that I'll express my opinions, my thoughts, and I get a backlash of, oh yeah, everything's just hunky-dory, isn't it? And I want to ask, is there anything wrong with feeling good?
Well,
what's wrong with that?
Good for you. And isn't, there, that can be the case. I've had people say things like that to me as well. You can't think that way. Oh, like every life is just like, a big bowl of cherries. Oh, aren't you just lucky? And I say I am lucky. And yes, life is a bowl of cherries. And those pits, what I like to do with them? I like to use them as I test how far I can spit them. It becomes like a little contest I have with myself. And I have fun with it. I have fun with it. I see how clean I can get all the fruit off. How clean can I get that? And then I spit it out. Poof! I do the same with olive seeds. I mean, providing I'm not in a restaurant, although I did do that once and got in big trouble, so I learned not to do that again. It's not very socially acceptable. But I had a blast for the few seeds I could manage. Now, I mean, what is up with that? I mean, I'm watching so many, and I hear so many people talking about what's going on in Russia and what's going on with these planes, and I'm not saying those aren't valid conversations. My question is, are they being used as a distraction? How can we be so focused on what's going on that's wrong on the outside world and so enchanted by it? It's like a drug. It's like heroin for some people. And it is. And you're absolutely right. And physiologically, it absolutely is. They're heroin. Thing is, when you're on a bad high, man, don't you want to get off? Do they even recognize they're on a bad high? That's a good question. I suggested to some people who were quite living their lives in this way that they put themselves on a negativity diet, and I suggested to them that for 30 days, they don't read the newspaper and they don't put on the news. Wow. Talk about a junkie coming. What do they call that when you're coming off heroin? There's the Joneses, or you get the sweats.
Withdrawal.
The withdrawal. That's the word, right? I was started going for some street word, but yeah, it was. They were like, what would I talk about? What do I talk about at work?
Baby, I need a fix, please. I need my. I gotta see what's going on.
Right, exactly. Well, their whole identity, it was like, what do I talk about? I said, well, I don't really watch the news or read newspapers. I always figure whatever information I'm supposed to get will come to me. I go and aim for other kinds of information that I find more uplifting and more productive for me as a human being on a path to expand my awareness and be more in alignment with all that is. And they didn't understand their whole conversation. So it wasn't just about the news. Is about a lifestyle built around media-driven gossip. Isn't that amazing?
Gossip. That's exactly what it is, and that's a problem. There's so many of us out there, maybe have been around the internet for a couple of years, maybe have been around the internet since it started and maybe before that, but that we have become so good into operating this little electronic device in front of us while we look at the screen for maybe 8 hours a day, and my goodness, we've just gotten so good, and they don't realize that the main thing they were trying to get away from, the mainstream media gossip and everything else, you know what? They found out where you're hanging out. You're hanging out on that monitor in front of you. And so now they know where to drop the junk because you're a junkie, and they're dropping the same stories on your internet, on your cyberspace. And we've gotten so good that, well, when we hear about another disaster or a catastrophe, we put on our secret agent man pants, and we go looking for we think are the facts, although it's all third, 20th party information. I mean, take a circle of people. You've done that before, right? 10 people in a circle, say something, repeat it. What does it come out on that 10th person? A lot different than what was originally said. And people wonder why they go to bed just feeling, another day. I wonder what tomorrow's going to bring.
Actually, I'm somewhat curious. So why is that so interesting? Why is that so fascinating?
Idea, Benjamin.
Actually, something that just came to me as I was asking the question on the inside, I could make an educated guess, is that we have also, to a certain extent, numbed ourselves and become somewhat flatlined in many ways. And feeling that excitement, even though some of it may be more stress and anxiety related, is at least more familiar, is at least more lively than the depression that can come with the overwhelm of feeling like there is nothing in this great big world that we as such little people can really do to shift the world, to make a change, to really do something. And it thus becomes that much easier to build each other up with these types of stories that do give us some type of chemical internal cocktail to give us a little bit of a hit, a little bit of a fix, rather than just sitting around and being bored to death because we're watching yet another rerun of whatever TV show we've seen 15 times already. So then we haven't necessarily learned how good we can actually feel. We haven't really exercised or flexed those muscles, and they have atrophied. And thus we'd rather keep playing with what it is that we do know, with what it is that does seem familiar and at least does give us that type of a feeling of excitement, maybe even if it is in a direction that isn't always feeling great, but it is a feeling that's better than lethargy or depression. And from that place, it at least allows us some type of control, some type of action, because who has taught you in school how to enjoy yourself for no reason? I never learned that. They actually marked all the mistakes I made. They only had the red pen out, not the green one that checks it off and just says, well, this was great. Wow, I want to see more of this. It was more, oh, no, here's the big mistakes. X. It's almost like the teachers also started to get a little bit of a joy out of marking some of those X's. And some of them don't. I hear that, but it's almost like we have been conditioned to go more into the drama zone because at least we feel more of something. But when really you've seen that speaker that has been inspired, you have seen that or listened to the people that are so full of joy that when they actually just do it for themselves, that they put themselves into such a state of excitement, of exuberance, that when you are hanging off of their lips, that it just seeps into your body just the same, and you can start feeling that vibration. You can start feeling that excitement. You can start feeling that joy. It might remind you of all the things that you've done in your life where you've relaxed or appreciated and loved and felt so great that if you would be able to turn up the dial on that, you would be able to become a junkie of feeling good just the same. But we've never really quite been told how to do that.
Exactly.
And that's sort of sad. But that's why we wanted.
It's kind of sad because it's like like you were saying, Benjamin, we've been conditioned, from the time we were a child. My gosh, even the cartoons where the supersonic mouse came up and beat out the bad pussycats that were picking on everybody. We've been taught this drama, God, from the time we were a child, that the horror, the drama, the not knowing and the finding out, knowing it'd all be over in 2 hours and you could turn it off. We've lost the feeling of that excitement, of feeling joyful, of feeling happy, and not feeling guilty about feeling happy.
That's a good point, because very often it's almost become the norm to not feel good, where if we do, we must have quite a reason, or we have to sort of feel guilty for it. It is a sin to feel good. And it's sort of silly because a lot of people, I've certainly seen that with men and women too, in order to have this pleasure in my life, it's the guilty pleasure that only feels really good because it's so evil and sinful to feel good. When really, when has peace, love, or joy ever hurt anyone? It's not generally those types of emotions that really create anything destructive. Well, you can turn it into mischievousness, but then you're mixing other things into it. When you're really loving or peaceful or just joyful, or whichever one you take of these really uplifting emotions and sensations, they don't hurt anyone. You're actually more likely to give people what it is that they're looking for. You're more likely to give them what they're excited about. And if they're not feeling attracted to that, if they're in their own peacefulness or excitement or whatever it is, then they'll gravitate to those people that will share that with them. And when we ourselves start to actually create more of that for ourselves, then we can actually be that speaker too, that then can have it resonate into other people and inspire it just the same. It works for good ideas just the same it works for those negative ideas. It's just that our focus has been so much in the direction of war, killing, and all of those types of jolting things, which can be very important for as long as we actually do something in our own personal worlds to not necessarily experience that as well. But it is really not that we get more peace by saying not war. We have to say peace because our minds don't understand the negatives. Whatever you focus on, you get. If I say to you, for example, something like a pink cat, you can't help yourself but think of a pink cat. If I say no war, you're still going to be thinking about war, even if you're trying to negate it. But if I say peace, on the other hand, well, that feels much more in the direction of what we want. So when we actually start aiming more in the direction of what we want, we're actually going to get it.
You know, I want to say something here. I'm watching the chat room, and while this may not be very politically correct, I'm going to put my spin on it, and I invite anybody who's listening to this to just take a breath and open to what I'm going to present to you. There's an invitation here to go a little deeper than the surface of the crap that is being fed to us and to buy into the bully scenario. Somebody just wrote that we have the power, I'm paraphrasing, to change the world to a better place, and that they found a blank page to be exciting. And I agree. But the question is, and I feel that the challenge is, and I'm going to use the word, the problem is, that we're all trying to overwrite on top of the newsprint and the media images and change the world on top of the same canvas that is already filled in. The time is now to stop. There's an opportunity with all of this insanity to take a look and stop buying in. Y'all say you want a different place, you want a new world, but you're fighting the war with a war. You want to fly your planes into some other leader's bedroom or front hall to show him who's boss, to take the bully out, because that's going to stop bullying that's going out. Because I'm going to use the same perspective and the same ideology, but I'm going to platform and pretend through standing behind my flag that I have a better way than you do. And you know what? That's a crock of crap. And it may not be very politically acceptable what I'm saying, and it may be very counterculture. And I am very passionate about this because I am watching people write things that are terrorizing, that are angry, that are war-filled, that want to do harm to others. And how can you not see that you are no better than those that have created the scenario in the first place by fighting back with the same anger and rage? When now would a little bit of resolution come into yourself, decide who you are, check out your beliefs, and then go into a resourceful state? But you want to put your boxing gloves up the same way that they did. So many people have, gone out in peace. They've put their lives on the line from a peaceful place. And my goodness, we can do that too. But for us all to rally and say, oh, we're better than you are because what? Because our ideology is better, but I'm still willing to spill your blood. Give me a break. Wake up. Stop pressing the snooze button on the alarm clocks of your own consciousness, your love, and your awareness. Where is your clarity? Where is your integrity? What makes your war more self-righteous and more compassionate than somebody else's? Do you need a little wake-up call? I hope this is it for you. Please wake up, because you are creating the same thing that you say should not have been created. Step back, breathe, get to know yourself, decide who you are and what you want, not through pushing against, but through creating something new on a blank page. Stop it and start making better plans, because the plans you have are going to create more chaos. Can you not see that?
Usually
that's my rant.
Ball's bigger than your ball. My ball's bigger than... And, you know, that's what they don't get. And well said, Jasmine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, these people don't understand, and I hear them say it time and time again, as well I do. You know, this is a spiritual war that is going on right now. Nothing physical to do about it. You know, this country's over here and this country's over there. You know, but people get on and they start rolling up the shirt sleeves and saying, well, you know, I found out what you're like. That's exactly what they want you doing, fighting against each other instead of helping each other, loving each other, sharing with each other.
So somebody, thank you for that. I agree. And someone in the chat room just asked a really good question. I'm pretty sure it was aimed at us, because how can we change the world and we cannot grow our own food? Who says I grow my own food? We have to be on the grid and cannot collect rainwater. Who says? And then there are no jobs. Says who? And the corporations have control over whatever. I don't know what that word means. The chemtrails pollute the soil. Good humor will not help the people that have no jobs and are not fitting in the narrow-minded blah blah corporate state. What do you hosts say about that? I say mind your world is what I say. Who says you can't grow food? Where do you live? When you start, you see, the thing is, we've all got this whole group think perspective. There's only one race, it's called humanity. There's one airstream, it's called oxygen over the entire planet. You know, what if everyone decided not to vote? What if everyone put no on the ballot? What if we all just decided not, really, what if we all just decided not to show up one day? What if everyone didn't pay their power bill? What if everyone said, hey, I'm not afraid anymore? Because what is the one thing they hold, these corporations you speak of, these powers that be, I like to call them the Department of They. What is the one thing they hold over you that scares you more than anything?
Fear.
Yes, but fear of what? Because fear is a nice blanket, and you're right. That is the emotional residue. It's they're going to take your life.
Jasmine, the fear is if I don't pay my power bill, I won't be able to turn on my computer.
Yes, yes, exactly. But really, the bottom line is they're going to come and take your life. They're going to actually remove your physicality from the planet. And not only that, it's going to hurt a lot, because remember, life is meant to be comfortable, okay? Because we've been lulled into that nest. And comfort depends on all of these outside source things that were ours to begin with, that we used individually and in community to share. Take those resources from the people and then sell them back to them like they have no control over them. And when that doesn't work, threaten to kill their families, their children, and take their bodies, and it's going to hurt a lot. So what are you really? You're afraid of some pain? Are you not in pain already? And so what? If you believe that this is your only go on the planet, then okay, I understand. But what if it's not? What if you're an eternal being? What if the whole reason you're here is to feel good? What if it is to feel empowered and feel free and free yourself, to step out of that? If you don't believe you have the power, then no matter how many people gather in a group, if every one of them believes they don't have the power, you will never move forward into a different platform or a different world.
And they need us more.
Hallelujah!
They need us more than we need them. They can try and make all the rules they want, but if we now start moving to the places that they can't control, if we start to actually organizing ourselves just as well, if not better than they're organizing themselves, then we actually are stepping into our power. But if we say we are helpless against them, that's never going to happen. But when, for example, we do step into our own power and we say, hey, wait a second, essentially, we are the government. Without us, they don't really have anything to govern. Then we actually start to be able to organize ourselves in a way that they don't really have power over us, but only by recognizing that they don't really have the power over us unless we allow them to control our emotions, to control our inner worlds. And they do this through subconscious or unconscious processes by manipulating us into what you earlier said, just in time, fear. Okay, but when we now start to grab hold of that which they then can't induce in us anymore, then we can start to think a little more clearly and start coming up with those organizations and those ways of not only organizing our inner worlds but our outer worlds just the same. And people that want to feel good will get together that way. And when you get together from that sort of a place, you won't be such a pushover in that sense anymore. It won't be possible that cops will just be able to run you over because it's now the law, but they might understand that, hey, wait a second, I'm a human that's just as affected by this nonetheless. All of a sudden, we might actually band together the same way that it happened in India when for example, Great Britain was taking over India. And Gandhi started saying, hey, I'm not going to work that way. And there are many thinkers in our world that have gotten great systems, but the systems that need to override the current one have to be a new system. It's not by fixing the old one that we're going to get there, but by creating a new one. And that revolution starts from the inside, by not being so controlled by the outside forces anymore, not being controlled by violent images so much anymore, but rather starting to grab ourselves a hold of our inner worlds and starting to focus our energies in a new way, in a new direction, and becoming extremely clear in what kind of a world we want to live. Do we really want to live with the risk of atomic energy? Is that really a smart choice to make? Or can we maybe have a look at what else has worked, what else is working, and what else might also be suppressed at various times throughout our histories? What can we come up with? Because we as humans are also genius. We have already so many solutions in how we can work for things rather than against them. But we have to be extremely clear in what kind of a world we want to live in. And again, it starts from the inside. And when we find that thread of actually gaining control rather than being controlled, that's when we grab a hold of our own bus. That's when we become really powerful and directing our own destiny on purpose.
And I can feel the lady wants to jump in here real quick, and I just wanted to get one thing in and back you up on that, Benjamin, is when we can start working for things instead of against things.
Yep.
Yes. Well, I mean, that was Mother Teresa's big gig, right? If there's ever an anti-war rally, don't bother inviting me. But if you're going to march for peace, I'd be happy to be there. It's the energy behind things. Now, you know, there's some interesting comments going on around this conversation, and I'm happy that people are interacting. Yay, thank you for your energy. I love, that's what makes the stew so delicious. That's where we can openly shift things. You know, so there's one question, okay, I'm going to address one. I'm going to go a little to the side and then we'll come back. But somebody asked about universal laws. And I and I think that that's a really solid question. Now, from my understanding, you know, the word law always freaks me out a little bit, okay? So I'm just going to use it as a signpost because there are some words that I feel a little challenged by, but I recognize they're my challenges. So the best I can do is say, all right, from that perspective of a universal law per se, the best I can do is share with you what I've aligned myself with. That feels pretty good, and I know everything's always subject to change. Ben, do you feel like you can give the 5 universal laws in this moment?
Can you give me 1 sec?
I'll give you a second, and so we're going to answer that. Just in time. Are you still here, handsome? No? Okay. Well, thank you for being with us. I always appreciate
I was typing. I didn't want you to
Oh,
hear
you
me
are? Okay. I always appreciate the live energy. Okay, Ben, here's an answer to the 5 laws. And then I'm going to get back to this, what if we lose everything thing? Because, how can we lose what we don't have in the first place? If you feel you don't have it, and if you feel you're identified with it, maybe you might want to reconsider that, and if we have time, we'll address that. If not, we'll certainly go into that again, because this is a juicy conversation. So now for the laws. Go ahead and give it to me.
So
what are you afraid of losing? Is it material? That's my first question every time. What are you afraid of losing?
Identity.
The self. But here,
do you know self? That's the question. Do you know self?
The thing is, though, how can we actually know that we can ever lose ourselves? Because, we can be threatened with death. But when you actually are willing to look deeper into the story of death, you might realize that there is a lot more to it, and that we do have a lot more information than is being taught in mainstream media. So we're going to throw these laws out, and I'm going to start with 4 at this time. The first one being, you exist. And if you exist now, it means that you have always existed and that you will always exist. Why is that? Because non-existence, by definition, does not exist. And non-existence is full of stuff that doesn't exist, but none of it exists. So that means that it is packed so chock full of non-existence that by definition, nothing that currently exists can ever not exist. Yet again, I'm going to repeat it. If you exist now, you will always exist. You are an eternal being at the core of yourself. The way that you look, the way that you shape yourself, the way that your understanding of yourself might flow into different means, might come through in different types of material. But if you exist now, you will and have always existed. The second idea being, one is all and the all are one. Essentially, everything comes from the one. The one then has split itself into many different facets, and we have a beautiful world of much variety that then essentially, though, is seeking to a certain extent, again, to understand its oneness, its unification. And that's oftentimes what's so misunderstood as God or the unified field. But quantum physics is at least starting to get back to that type of an understanding. There is a unification in every single thing that exists. But that would essentially also mean, out of this one actually follows another one of these laws, that if one is all and all is the one, it means that everything is here and now. There is nothing that you cannot access from this point here, essentially through everything, all time and all space, whatever is possible in all of perpetuity. Now, the third one of these is similar to what some people call the law of attraction, but often is also very misunderstood. What you put out, you get back. There is nothing in this world that you can experience in one way or another that you have to, essentially, you have to be the vibration of it first before you can experience it. If you haven't created that possibility in your own inner world, in your own model of the world, you cannot perceive it outside of yourself. Essentially, even if you perceive something outside of yourself, you then have to reproduce that same thing in your inner world to actually experience it as such. But as soon as you start creating a belief like that, the funny thing is, you're going to see it more and more and more. Thus, it also means that whatever you focus your energy on, whatever you focus your clarity in what direction you point, is the direction that you're going to get back. So whatever you put out, you're going to get back. And the last one of these is that there is only one constant in the entire universe, and that is change. Everything changes except for these first three, or in brackets, four laws, because out of the second one there was another one that was born. So these are essentially the only truisms that supposedly are completely universal. Now, we can gladly talk about whether there is any more beyond that, and yet it's really difficult to actually find any evidence that doesn't agree with these statements. I have certainly tried, but I haven't found one shred of evidence. Now, that would make it somewhat difficult to prove it scientifically, because science always tries to find a counterexample. And without a counterexample, well, you can't really get very far. But if this is actually a universal law, science would have a really difficult time with any of this, because, well, science just doesn't seem to work that way. Now, if anyone can find me examples that don't work with an alignment of this, then gladly. Then I'll welcome your feedback on that.
Wow. That was pretty awesome. That was pretty incredible. And yeah, I hope that helped. And, well, if it helped, it assisted in some way or planted some seeds for consideration for the person who asked that question. I think that's a brilliant question, and something that tells me that, somebody's been playing around in the big borderless sandbox of all that is and self-awareness and checking things out, and I really offer to people, there's been some response to what I said in the chat room, and I'm glad for that. I'm happy. There's some Shakti going on. There's some energy moving through. And, there's everyone is welcome to their own perspectives. That's what the joy is. To make to say that someone is talking a load of crap and it's not true, that's a pretty huge blanket statement. And I mean, you're welcome to that. If that makes you feel good and you're feeling really content and juiced up about that, excited and good in your body, and your body feels open, and your heart feels free, and your solar plexus is open, and your jaw is soft, then I say that's great for you. But if it's not, you might want to reconsider that. That perhaps, there's a way in which a lot of us have identified with material objects as our identity. And we're pretty sure that the way things are supposed to be are the way that they're supposed to be. And we will often kill or be willing to put ourselves on the line for that. I ask, really? Really? Do you? I mean, and so many of us feel so alone and abandoned here because we've lost touch with, we opened the show with that spiritual core of ourselves. We've lost touch with the fact that we're more than just this meat suit, man. We're more than just a gathering of nerve bunches run with electromagnetic energy. There is something unique and spectacular and pristine and delicious about each and every one of us. And we are creating our realities. And I can prove that to you because what you believe in your head that you're arguing so strongly for and so vehemently for, that you're willing to go to war for, tells you that your reality is pretty ingrained and that you believe it to be you. But I ask you the question, what if it's not? What if it's not you? What if your land is not you and your house is not you, your marriage is not you, your ideas are not you? Then what's left? What remains when everything is stripped away? What is this part of you that is watching you think? What is that? Have you ever asked those questions? But because so many of us have been hypnotized and brainwashed into paying attention to all the crud that's being spoon-fed to us. I dated an artist a long time ago who said they feed us crap so often that we begin to think it tastes good. And then we start serving it to everyone else. You want to change the world, man? There's only one person in the world. That's you. There's only ever one person in my world, and that's me. And the only version of you that exists in my world is the version I create, is the story I tell. Now, I choose to tell good stories. And when I'm feeling that something doesn't feel good in my body, I question the story I'm telling. Are you open enough to question your own story? Are you open enough to go and start researching those people, if you're afraid of losing food, that live, they're called fresh airtarians and chiatarians. And, I have met a few of them in my travels. Are you willing to go that? Or are you going to argue that that's not possible? Are you going to make that some, war against that too because it seems impossible or too hard to do? And I understand that place. I understand that it can seem overwhelming to change, that we are sucked into some machine and victims of it. But I tell you, if you're really willing to question that and find some peace for yourself, there's a whole new world just waiting for you to step into.
And it is certainly easy to misunderstand this as inaction. But clearly, as we said in the beginning of the show, we're not talking about inaction. We're not talking about sitting down and just meditating all day long, because we are talking about acting in your world. But the question is, what are you acting from? Because whatever it is that you're acting from, you're likely to create more of it. Have you ever talked about with an aggressive voice to someone that's happy? Eventually, if you keep that up for long enough, they're going to get aggressive too. Have you done it ever the other way around, that you've actually been kind and sweet with someone that has been aggressive with you? It works the other way just the same. That you can actually, if you're capable of maintaining that state for yourself long enough, you can overturn that aggression back into a much more peaceful and calm situation all around. So if you actually learn to create those types of states within yourself, it will allow you to not only access them and feel better in your own world, but it will seep out into the world just the same, because we do influence our environments way more than we can see.
Yeah, you know what? And I don't know what's up with that Benjamin dude. That dude is always happy. It drives me crazy. It works both ways. Share the love and rub it off on the others and let them say, wow, that felt great. I'd like to do that.
Yeah. And until we can look at every situation and find neutrality and balance in it, it will always pull us. We can't look at what we don't have and then plan to platform, to lily pad off of that into having what we want. It comes into a state of balance. And I'm so happy you're on the air with us. Thank you.
My pleasure. You have a great afternoon, both of you.
Oh, thank you. And I'm so happy. Thank you. And you too. And I hope to hear from you again and again. And I'm really grateful for everyone in the chat room. And thank you so much for joining in, and people who've called in, who've joined in, who are listening and contemplating. And if your blood is boiling, I think that's beautiful too. It's nice, because those buttons, when they're pushed, that's to me, that's fertilizer for investigation. There's something going on there.
I usually feel that happens to me when I do start to get really close to a massive paradigm shift. I do have learned that there is golden nuggets in exactly that, because it usually opens me up to finding a new perspective that actually frees me in my world more. Where I thought I was caught up and tied up before, I usually find another way of thinking about it creatively that does allow me to act with more empowerment rather than less. And it was definitely very nice to have all of you join us, and I would like to also let you know that our website is springoflifecenter.com with ER, and we do put out monthly teleconference calls where we certainly facilitate you to gain more skills in how to actually shift your world, how to gain a different perspective and have a blast, so that your world and your life does become not only more empowered, but you do have more choices in which you can act, and also more good feelings to recreate for yourself. Because after all, if you're not having fun, life is way too long.
Oh, yeah. So let's all have some fun. And let's open our hearts and, give yourselves maybe a few minutes to try the meditation technique. If you didn't catch it, it's on the first hour of our show, I think probably with about the half-hour mark. And open yourself up and see what comes, and smile a little more, become better planners, create solutions in your brains that are based in joy juice and enthusiasm and excitement and possibility. Let's become better planners. Let's plan for an exciting, vibrant, thriving future for ourselves and for those we love.
Have a blast.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We'll be right back after this message. Revolution Radio.
You don't see it, do you? How close we are to absolute chaos? The sick ones are sitting on their fat asses, eating and drink themselves into a stupor, polluting the world without a second thought while it goes down the toilet. Nobody wants to do the nasty work. The shit that we all just think about. Most good citizens are just along for the ride and then bitch and moan and complain about everything when it doesn't work out. Not me. Get it done.
Revolution Radio, where we do the nasty work. www.freedomslips.com